Thanks, Andy.
Good morning, members, and welcome to this meeting of the Local Review Body of the 2nd of June. I can confirm that the meeting has been properly called and is quorate. Can I first ask members to appoint a chair for this meeting, please?
I'm happy to propose Stephen Thompson. Tracy.
Thank you. Stephen, would you like to accept the role of chair?
You beat me to it, Jim, but yes, okay, I'll give it a go, thank you.
Good stuff.
Okay, I've got a few wee notes just to assist with this, so I'm just going to pull those up just now.
Stephen, just before you do, I don't know if you heard the conversation I had with Jim earlier. I'm a late substitute for this. I only got the link to it yesterday. So obviously I don't have the physical papers here, so I have to change screen from time to time throughout it. I would ask that between the appeal, if you just give me a few minutes to download the next set of papers, because to do it just now just makes the screen a bit of a mess.
No, and that's fine, Ian. I think when I looked at the front of the document pack for the meeting, obviously there's names there that aren't here and vice versa. So I think we'll get all that cleared up. And I think obviously with technology being what it is, we'll make as many allowances as possible for that to happen. So no problem.
I have no papers either, Stephen, other than online, which obviously Ian and I had a conversation about it. We've read them and got them on screen. But it might be helpful if folk make a reference to physical pages or document numbers if we're having a discussion about any particular application or element of any application, Stephen.
Yeah, no, we'll try and encourage that. I think it's helpful for everybody, Jim. So that's fine. And obviously, you know, it's a nice day as we approach summer, so we can take our time just to get this right and make sure everybody's on the same page, as it were. So you'll probably hear a few clicks as I go here, but okay, so just to formally welcome everybody to the Local Review Body of the 2nd of June 2021. I can confirm, as Tracy just outlined, the meeting's been properly called and is quorate. So can I just ask Tracy if you can confirm the sederant and just so we've got a proper record of any apologies or substitutions, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Chair. We've currently got 3 members present, so we are quorate. We have apologies from Councillor Fairbairn and Maitland, and substituting for them today are Councillors Dempster and Blake. Not present at the start are Councillor Giusti and Councillor Slow. Okay, thanks, Tracy. And obviously we've got the documents in front of us, or will have as soon as they've downloaded, but can we then maybe just take us through the document, well, the first item in particular, and the papers for item 4, if you could please, Tracy.
Chair.
Yeah, sorry, Jim. Thank you.
Before that, you'll need to approve the members' remote participation, and you'll need to check for declarations of interest.
I beg your pardon, how remiss of me, and thank you for keeping me right, Jim. So yes, do members have any declarations of interest for either of the items as far as they know?
Not me.
Okay, Ian?
Not me, Stephen.
Okay, thank you. And of course, it's become de rigueur nowadays, but I confirm that remote participation in the meeting is acceptable, and any actions arising from that are also part of what we consider to be a valid participation in the meeting. So with that, then we'll go on to item 4. So over to you, Tracy. I think you can take us through the documents that we've got in front of us, and if there's any sort of particular points of consideration for the first notice of review.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So item 4, land adjacent to Cluaran, Battle Hill, Annan, refusal of planning permission in principle for erection of dwelling house and garage and installation of septic tank, reference 20/2045/PIP. So within your papers, you've got your index of contents, including your notice of review and related documents. You've got the report on handling and related correspondence, your observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's agent's notice of review, comments of the applicant's agent on observations of the appointed officer. Got the planning application forms, which were submitted on the 27th of November with associated plans and supporting information. The decision notice from the Dumfries Gallery Council, which was dated the 9th of February 2021. Can I just point out to members that on the decision notice, which is on page 83 of your papers, it does refer to a battlefield within the grounds for refusal, which should read Battle Hill as per the title of the actual application. That was obviously a typo, but it was just been picked up, so apologies for that. You then have your relevant extracts for the Dumfries Gallery Local Development Plan 2 and photos of the application site and locality, which the Independent Plan Officer can run through after I've finished going through the papers here. So the grounds for refusal are that the proposal is contrary to policy H3 of the Dumfries Gallery Local Development Plan 2 and the accompanying supplementary guidance on housing in the countryside and national policy as set out in Scottish planning policy that permit the erection of new houses in the countryside only in special circumstances identified in development plans, and none of these circumstances apply in this case. Furthermore, the proposed site lies adjacent to a single dwelling house, Cluaran, and so would not meet the test of the identification of a small buildings group, which requires to have 3 or more dwelling houses, and would not be considered to within or well relate to the nearest small building group battlefield that lies over 500 metres southwest of the proposed site and the existing property of Cluaran. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis of an assessment of the review documents only, with no further procedure. In summary, the grounds stated in the notice of review are the references to the supplementary guidance on policy H3 housing in the countryside in the supporting statement lodged with the application are correct and current, as there is no material difference between the supplementary guidance which expired in January 2020 and the introduction of the supplementary guidance adopted in February 2020. Turning to 4.5 in the report on handling, the proposal meets the LDP2 supplementary guidance on housing in the countryside, as the houses referred to in 4.6 meet the criteria. There are 3 established houses in the area described as A to D on submitted drawing number CB5. It is not unusual for small building groups to be larger than 400 to 500 metres from end to end. It is difficult to understand why it is not accepted that the distance in this case is no greater than that supported in other applications. The land separating the houses is in an agricultural use, and this should not prevent the group of houses being identified as a small buildings group in a rural and agricultural area. The houses are clearly visible to one another in this rural setting, and if Cluaran is added, there are then 4 houses in the group, all within a distance no larger than a considerable number of identified small building groups. It is unreasonable to dismiss the statements made at parts 15, 16 and 19 of the original submitted supporting statement. Small buildings groups do not have identified boundaries, and because of this there is flexibility within the policy and the supplementary guidance to allow the local review body members to approve the application. The coronavirus continues to have a huge impact on local communities, and councillors have an opportunity to assist the recovery of the economy by supporting projects in these areas. The proposal will not affect the housing strategy. You then have your development plan policies listed, and the main issues for the local review body to consider are: does the proposal comply with the terms of the development plan in principle? In particular, does the proposal meet the terms of LDP2 policy H3 in principle? Does the proposal accord with the guidance set out in the adopted LDP2 supplementary guidance relating to housing in the countryside in principle? Specifically, has it been satisfactorily demonstrated that the proposed new dwelling house would meet the tests set out within LDP2 policy H3 and the adopted LDP2 supplementary guidance relating to housing in the countryside in relation to the identification of small buildings groups? Should this site be considered as part of a small buildings group? Further, is the site within or well related to the nearest small building group called Battlefield? that is located over 500 metres to the south-west. If it is not considered that the proposal accords with the terms of the development plan and a set of material considerations of sufficient weight to justify a departure from the terms of the development, if so, what reasons would members give for such a decision if it was considered that the proposal departs from the terms of the development plan? If members are minded not uphold the appointed officer's decision and instead grant planning permission for this proposal, what set of conditions and reasons would members wish to see attached, if any? If members are instead minded to vary the terms of the appointed officer's decision, what changes to the specific reasoning of the decision would be required? Having outlined the documents within members' papers, it now falls to the LRB to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. It's confirmed that no representations from any party will be heard today. The options available to the local review body today are: determine it has sufficient information before it to enable it to determine the review today. Request further information in the form of written representations. Local review body will be required to state precisely the information it is seeking and who must provide it. Resolve to hold a hearing, again specifying who will be invited to speak and on what matters. Resolve to hold a site visit, accompanied or unaccompanied. This can be done in conjunction with any of the above, but would obviously not allow a decision to be made today. If the local review body resolves that it has sufficient information and that no further procedure is required, then the local review body has the full powers to uphold, vary or reverse a determination. This decision will include a statement of the terms in which the planning authority had decided to the case reviewed. As I mentioned earlier, the decision notice that was originally issued had a typo, so if members do uphold the decision, they would need to actually vary the officer's decision of the original application so that we can correct that, the typo, and the new decision notice will be issued. A planning advisor is present at your meeting. It's confirmed that they have not had any involvement in this case and were not the case officer or the appointed officer for this application. They are purely here to provide independent advice as needed on matters of planning policy, law or process to the local review body. And if members are now clear and no further clarification is required, I'll ask the chairman now to lead the debate and in the first instance lead you through the papers and decide if you have sufficient information to determine the application today. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Tracy, for going through those various items there. So hopefully also that's given members time to maybe get a wee look at the papers they've been downloading. So the next bit, ultimately, we're going to decide whether or not we've got enough information today to make a decision, or if we require anything else, bearing in mind that the applicant or the appellant has asked for it to be considered on the papers in front of us. But with that, we can now go through the various papers in front of us. Ian and Jim, are you able to see the papers now, or had a chance to at least sort of get a wee look at them?
Okay, Jim, you're on mute.
I'm not hearing you, Jim, unfortunately.
My apologies, Chair. When I was reading the papers, it automatically went to mute. Chair, I'm satisfied that I have enough information to determine this application or this appeal today.
Okay.
And would suggest that when we discuss the papers, we should do it section by section and rather than page by page, and we can still go into any particular issues that are raised by members on the day.
Yeah, so I was intending just to go through each section, as you say, and then if there's any questions, obviously, hopefully the case officer can assist with that. Ian, just to check with yourself, have you managed to download at least?
Yeah, I've already downloaded the papers for this first appeal. I was just asking for time between so I could download the second one before that appeal. That was the only thing. But
okay. That's fine, thank you. Okay, so we've got obviously we've got the notes of review itself and the documents, pages 13 to 25. Do we have any questions or points of clarification that we want to seek on that? section?
Not me, Chair.
And Ian, anything there for yourself?
No, nothing for me in the first one.
Okay. There's also then the report on handling and related correspondence, as set out pages 27 to 42.
Satisfied with that, Chair.
Councillor Blake, Ian?
Yeah, but did you cover the additional one after the notice of review, the which was the actual one submitted by the agent? Pages 21 onwards.
So pages 21 to 23, I think it is, captures the submission to ourselves. Yeah, so that's I suppose I've sort of included that in the whole package of the notice of review itself. So I mean, is there a question you want to clarify on that?
I obviously see them separately on here, but that's fine.
Okay. So I see Councillor Giusti is now joined the meeting as well. So welcome, Councillor Giusti. We're just going through the paper section by section just to see if there's any questions for the case officer. And we're on item 4, and we're just we've looked at notes of review and related documents, and I think we're comfortable we've got enough information there. Section 2, the report and handling, pages 27 to 42. I think we're saying we don't have any questions. We're satisfied we've got enough information there. Section 3, observations of the appointed officer and the applicant's agent, notice of review, pages 43 to 49. Do we have any points of clarification, members, on that section?
Not me, Chair.
Yeah, Ian or Andrew?
Not me.
Okay. We've then got section 4, comment on the applicant's agent on observations of the appointed officer, pages 51 to 54. Again, any questions or clarification sought on that one?
Not me, Chair.
Okay. Just shout and scream if I go on too fast for either yourself, Ian, or Andrew.
It's just negotiating the screen here. No, not me.
Okay. Andrew, I'll take your silence as consent to move on until you come in. So section 5 is the planning applications form submitted on 27th of November 2020 and the associated plans. That's pages 55 to 57. Content with those?
Yes.
Yes.
And section 6, pages 79 to 85 is the decision notice from our council, and obviously there's the typo issue which we've picked up on already within that. But any other questions about that?
No.
Nothing from me.
Okay, and then section 7 is relevant extracts from the Local Development Plan 2, pages 87 to 95. All right, and just while you're considering if you need any additional information there, that's Councillor Giusti just also highlighting some of the IT challenges that he's facing in the chat function there. So I think we're with you on that, Andrew. We've all got slightly different IT setups, I think, and it's a new world. So, but we're coping. So. Section 8 then is photos of the application site and the locality, pages 97 to 103. Are we content we've got enough information there?
Yeah.
Chair, the independent planning advisor has actually got those photos as part of a presentation that he can bring up on the screen to go through in a bit more detail for members if you wish.
Well, I think I'm not sure if that's going to impact on people trying to negotiate screens themselves, but I think it would be almost criminal to have so many officers here and not have them put, showcase their skills. So I think
I would agree. That'd be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. So if that's okay, can we then maybe try have a go at the presentation just while we're looking at that section for information?
Morning, Chair. Morning, members.
Morning, David.
So I'll just run through the slides, which are pretty much those that you've got in your papers already, starting on page 99. So the first one just really shows the location of the application site. So you can see the settlement of Annan is in the top left-hand corner there, and the road which runs down towards Battle Hill comes from the south of Annan. And you can see that the Solway coast is right there. Probably the next slide actually shows you the context a little better. And what you can see there is Battle Hill is a well-defined and recognised small building group, which is at the termination of that cul-de-sac, which runs down there towards the Solway Firth, where it has a very defined nucleus group of buildings around there. And what you can see here is that you've got the application site pretty much in the centre, which forms part of the garden of Clwaren. And you've also got the distances from the properties which the applicant's agent has identified as potentially forming a new small building group with Clwaren. So you can see there the distances. Beckfoot Farm is 419 metres away. Eastwood House is 258. Beechwood House also 258. Beechwood House Cottage 260. So I think that gives you a fairly good context of the site. And the next slide actually it's just the same actually, but on an aerial view. So again, you can quite clearly see where the nucleus of Battle Hill Small Building Group is right down on the Solway coast. And the next slide shows an aerial view of the parent house and the application site with the block plan superimposed on it, so you can see the context of actually how the house would sit next to the other one. And the next slide is really just running along a Google Street View. So this is showing you coming back from on the way north from the main Battle Hill group. That's the property of Eastwood, and then another property has been identified by the applicant's agent, which isn't in fact a dwelling house at all. It's a shed, and those don't count as consideration for part of it being a small building group. The next slide is where you come round. You'll notice there's a pretty sharp 90-degree bend in the road coming up from Battle Hill itself, and that shows the context there. With the application site really is where the trees are, and the site entrance and existing entrance of the road there. And the next slide is looking, basically turning back from that view. So it's looking down where you're further towards the main road where it links in, and you're looking back down towards where the small building group is and Eastwood House. So I think again you can see physically the distance for it's over half a kilometre, 540 metres from the nearest house within Battle Hill small building group, and the rest in between is open countryside. The next slide is taken from the west of the application site, looking in an easterly direction. So you can see the property has been recently upgraded, so it's changed a little bit from that street view. But again, you can also see where Beechgrove House is, 258 metres away from the property, and the separation of the fields in the distance. And the final slides are just slides which were provided by the applicant and agent, showing the existing property and then the application site with the grassed area where the house is proposed. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, David. Members, any questions or comments on that, or clarification sought from David?
No, me, Chair.
No, either.
Okay. No, I mean, I think it sets it out fairly clearly in terms of the context and the location. Okay, so with the next section then is the grounds of refusal, page 82 to 83, which is in our papers, and it sets out there the basis of the decision that was originally taken. So we're happy we've got the information we should have within that.
Yes.
Okay, and then we've got on the requested method of determination, as mentioned earlier, the applicants asked that the review has been dealt with on the basis of an assessment of the review documents with no further procedure. I suppose we can note that, I guess. And then finally, we've got the grounds stated in the notice of review, pages. Sorry, I've kind of gone back there a wee bit. I beg your pardon. Right, okay. Right, so I suppose in summary then, do we feel we have enough information to make a decision today?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, and now I'm not really sure about the difference between going into session or otherwise here, but the case officer's been there. We've gone through the papers that we have in our packs. We're satisfied we have the information in front of us that we need to make a decision. I suppose it's over to you, members. I mean, what's your view in the papers you've got in front of us?
My view is that we should uphold the case officer's decision, and I would make that a proposal, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Blake?
I'm quite second that.
Okay, and Councillor Gistley, are you otherwise minded, or are you happy to agree?
I'll agree, Chair.
Okay, well, I'm happy to go with members on that one. So I think, I mean, the typo that Tracy highlighted earlier, pending, and if that can be corrected, just as part of the,
the process.
Yeah, then that's fine. So in that case, I think we're saying that basically the original decision is upheld.
Thanks, Chair. Just because of that typo, we'll be varying the decision of the appointed officer just so that the decision notice is corrected, but it's still a refusal.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that takes us on to now. Ian, you're wanting a wee bit of time to download the next section, is that right?
Yep, I'll just get rid of these ones and download the next one. It should only take a couple of minutes.
Okay, that's fine. So we can just meditate on what we've got in front of us for a few moments, and then Ian, if you just let us know when you're downloaded.
I'm good to go now, Stephen.
I'm happy, Stephen.
Okay, thanks for that. So, okay, we're on to item 5 then, and We've got the contents in front of us. We've got the various sets of papers with page numbers.
Chair, would you like me to run through my notes again for this one?
All right, so I think what it is, Tracy, is I'm sort of reading what you're about to read and then kind of, but that's fine. Yes, I think that'll set us all at ease. So if you want to just kick off with that.
So item 5 is Brayfoot, Tower Dalbeatty Road, Dumfries, refusal of planning permission for erection of dwelling house, change of use of agricultural land to form riding arena with pole-mounted lights, erection of stables, installation of septic tank and soakaway, siting of temporary mobile home and associated works, reference 20/1198/FUL. So within your papers, you've got your notice of review and related documents, your report on handling and related correspondence, observations of the appointed officer on the applicant's agent's notice of review, planning application form submitted on the 27th of July 2020 with associated plans and supporting information, the decision notice from Dumfries and Galloway Council dated the 12th of February 2021, your relevant extracts from the Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan 2, and the photos of the application site and the locality. So the grounds for refusal as stated in your papers are that the proposed development fails to meet any of the criteria in Dumfries and Galloway Local Development Plan 2, Policy H3, which only permits the erection of new houses in the countryside in particular circumstances, and none of these circumstances apply in this case. As such, the proposal would represent sporadic residential development in the countryside, contrary to the provisions of the development plan as set out in LDP2 Policy H3 and to associated LDP2 supplementary guidance on housing in the countryside. The applicant has requested that the review be dealt with on the basis of an assessment of the review documents only with no further procedure. The grounds stated within the notice of review in summary are the relative merits within the policies outweigh any individual policy or the lack of a specific local plan policy covering the application for keeping horses and providing welfare. Though the planning officer may have been unable to use their discretion in order to make a favourable decision on the planning application given the lack of specific local plan policy for the application process, appeal for review based on absence of policy. You've then got your development plan policies listed. And the main issues for the local review body to consider are, does the proposal comply with the terms of the development plan in principle? In particular, does the proposal meet the terms of LDP2 Policy H3 in principle? Does the proposal accord with the guidance set out in the adopted LDP2 supplementary guidance relating to housing in the countryside in principle? Does the proposal comply with the guidance set out in the Development Management Practice Note, Policy H3, Housing in the Countryside, August 2016? Does the information submitted within the application successfully demonstrate that new dwelling is essential in operational terms at this particular location? If it is not considered that the proposal accords with the terms of the development plan, are there a set of material considerations of sufficient weight to justify a departure from the terms of the development? If so, what reasons would members give for such a decision if it was considered that the proposal departs from the terms of the development plan? If members are minded to not uphold the appointed officer's decision and instead grant planning permission for the proposal, what set of conditions and reasons would members wish to see attached, if any? Would members be minded to request the submission of an assessment of the impacts of the proposal on the surrounding non-inventory designed landscape before proceeding further? See 4.11 of the report on handling. If members are instead minded to vary the terms of the appointed officer's decision, what changes to the specific reasoning for the decision would be required? So having outlined the documents within your papers, it falls to the LRB to determine whether it has sufficient information to consider the review. Again, it's confirmed that no representations from any party will be heard, and you have the same options available to you as with the previous case, which has decided that you have sufficient information to enable you to determine the review today. Request further information in the form of written representations, where the LRB will be required to state precisely the information it's seeking and who would provide it. Resolve to hold a hearing, again specifying who would be invited to speak and on what matters. Resolve to hold a site visit, accompanied or unaccompanied, which can be done in conjunction with any of the above, but would not allow a decision to be made today. If you resolve that you have sufficient information and that no further procedure is required, then you have the full powers to uphold, reverse or vary the determination. The decision notice will include a statement of the terms in which the authority has decided this case reviewed. Again, you still have a planning advisor present here to give advice on policy, law or process. And if members are now clear and no further clarifications required, I'll ask the chairman now to lead the debate and take you through the agenda papers. Thank you.
Thanks again, Tracy. I think that's set out pretty clearly there. So I think first of all we need to determine if we've got enough in front of us today to make a determination. So with that, we'll go through the sections of the papers, starting at page 109 to 115, where it's got the notice of review and the related documents. Are we content we've got enough information there, or do we need to ask any further questions about what we have in front of us?
I'm satisfied I've got enough, Chair.
Okay. The next section is the report on handling and correspondence, pages 117 to 142. Do we feel we've got?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Jim. And then section 3, we've got observation of the appointed officer on the applicant's agent's notice of review, pages 143 to 145.
Again, content with that, Chair.
Okay, thank you. And then section 4, the planning application form submitted and the associated plans and supporting information, pages 147 to 269. There's a lot of information in there, actually, particularly about lighting, which was interesting reading. But do we feel we've got enough information there in front of us?
Yes.
Thank you. Then we've got the decision notice from Dumfries and Galloway Council, pages 271 to 279. We're all comfortable with the information there?
Yeah.
And then section 6, we've got the extracts, the relevant extracts from the LDP2. That's from pages 281 to 289.
I'm satisfied with that, Chair.
Okay, and then section 7 is the photos of the application site and the locality, pages 291 to 295. I don't know if there's a presentation for this aspect as well. David, I don't know if you'd supplied any other information on this one.
Yes, Chair, we've got that available if you wish to run through that. It's basically the same slides as you have on page 293. So the first slide just shows you that already it's unauthorised, but you have this mobile home that's been installed on the site. That to date is the only part of the development that's been undertaken without any planning permission, but it quite clearly is sitting there in the field at the moment. And the next slide shows again, this is view across the site from the northeast corner. So you're seeing it in the wider context there. And the next slide is just looking along that northern boundary with the edge, and you can see the surroundings quite well. Next slide is looking towards the golf driving range, looking east. And next one gives you the looking across the centre of the site towards the existing paddocks. And the last slide is just viewing from inside the site, give you the context of it. Chair.
Thanks, David. Okay, members, so are we happy we've got a sense of the site and the location from the photographs there?
Yeah.
Chairman, can I ask David a question, please?
Yes, of course.
David, could you tell me if you have the information there? It's difficult for me to find it on this. The distance between that where that mobile home's situated and the golf, not so much the golf driving range itself, but the where they actually practice from that distance.
David, is that any?
I don't actually have that information. I wouldn't want to mislead you by giving you a guess.
That's fine. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, David. We'll maybe come back to that, Ian, if it's something you want to delve into a bit more. So having seen the pictures, then we've also got the grounds of refusal, pages 275 to 76, as set out. And are we comfortable that we've got the information there in terms of the decision that was made?
I'm satisfied with enough information before us to make a decision today. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, well, here we are then. I think that's what we need to establish. So, Jim, you're happy we've got enough information. Ian, obviously, you've raised a question there.
No, it's fine, Steve. It's really covered in the report. That's fine. Thank you.
Thank you. And Andrew, is there any information you feel isn't with us today that would prevent us making a decision? I'll assume that you're okay with it. I can't see anything in the chat. I appreciate you maybe having a bit of difficulty. Also, I think I asked a double negative question there, which wasn't helpful. But so if we go forward on the basis that we've got enough information in front of us to make a decision today, we've got obviously we have the points to consider in terms of, does the proposal comply with the development plan? Does it comply with the guidance? You know, all the things that Tracy outlined in her talk at the start. So with that, members, again, I'm in your hands. So where is the report taking you? What do you feel about this?
Again, Chair, I'm obliged to think that the proper officer or the planning officer had given due consideration to the proposal before them, and they have applied their view, and I would support that and support the officer's recommendation to refuse this application based on the way it's set out on the report.
Okay, thank you. Ian?
I'm quite happy with that too, thank you. Okay,
and Andrew, apologies if you're having difficulty. I can't hear you if you're contributing, but if you're otherwise minded, please let me know. Oh, right, thanks. He's come up in the chat just to say agree there. So, and yeah, I mean, I think I share your views. There's nothing in the report that would suggest deviation from what the officers actually based their decision on. So with that, I think we're of a similar mind and we can agree to uphold the decision as originally made. Tracy, just on a point, we don't need to do anything other than confirm that there's no variation or anything else required in this one because there's no typos or corrections in that regard.
No, Chair, that's fine if members are in agreement to uphold the case officer's decision, applications refused.
Okay, well, thank you, members. I've got no further business. I think a note to self is to arrive a little bit earlier so that I get to nominate somebody else for chair. Anyway, thanks everybody for your patience today.
Oh, can I come in just for a second?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Can I ask? And this is not the fault, not really the fault of anybody. Certainly not the officers. Where there are substitutions such as this, particularly in LRBs, normal committees or subcommittees I can normally cope with. This is a bit more difficult, skipping back and forward. That where a councillor has to submit an apology, that he or she does make an effort to try and forward the papers on to whoever's substituting. It would be far easier. I find this format quite difficult, and I did get there, but I find it quite difficult. Thank you.
It's a point well made, Ian, and
I think the same point, Stephen.
Yes, go on.
And no criticism of anyone, but normally an invitation to substitute comes long before 24 hours in advance, if you understand what I'm saying. There would be no opportunity to send me the papers by the lateness or the request, and that's down to the elected member, of course, how soon they advise officers that they're not available for duty on a particular service committee. But like Ian, it's much more useful to have committee papers to hand so you can flick back and forward. It's something maybe the longer serving members are familiar with, rather than I'd not bother with internet and in its own way. It's fine, but rapid flipping back and forth maybe no as easy as it is on, and you can I'm not at the stage yet of highlighting points on an electronic device that I can do on hard copy. So just a bit more notice, and I'd say that's not the officer's problem. It's down to elected members to give reasonable notice to staff that they're not available, and substitutes being given time to familiarise themselves better and actually get a hold of hard copy if that's what they're best familiar and best suited to. But just repeating what Ian has said.
No, and I think you both make a point. So just in terms of, because I understood this to be, this is the first time I've been in local review body in its new incarnation digitally, and my understanding was that there would be a first call, if you like, for members where everybody and a list of substitutes was included, kind of thing. So it would go in the diary on that basis. Then the original, the main, there was a check almost to make sure you weren't going to be in conflict, and then there was an invitation to confirm that you could attend, and if you couldn't attend, then you could arrange. And all this was, I was getting emails about that a couple of weeks ago, you know. So yes, I totally agree. There should be you need more than 24 hours, and especially with the screen flicking back and forward. I'm just conscious that today there's clerk's notes, there's the papers, and modern gov. I really need 2 screens because I've got use all on my wee phone. So there is the kind of time and motion kind of study about how you actually do this. But
and I think the other thing, Stephen, is, and everybody does things differently. Once the review body members have been nominated, I simply delete that information because, in theory, I don't need it.
Yeah, I mean, Tracy, can I just ask, is there anything that we can do as a council maybe to protect members just getting landed at the last minute, because you do need kind of more than 24 hours, especially if you're needing to get a proper look at the papers, because they are quite voluminous.
I did get an email on Friday, asked me if I was still available, but of course then it fell into bank holiday weekend, and by the time I could I responded. By the time I could get a response back, we were into Monday, Tuesday, or Tuesday I should say. I've just checked. I've got an email saying, can I call into Cargan Towers and collect a set of the papers? I got that this morning.
My first email came on Tuesday, and I wouldn't have gone to Cargan Towers anyway. With the invitation to do that, just here's an electronic copy for you.
Right, but I think some members will have maybe requested, paper copies, I'm sure. But is there anything you can comfort us with today, Tracy, in terms of recording those points or taking that feedback back to, well, I don't know who you would take it to, but maybe
David, he's sitting there.
Well, I'm not sure if it's so much of a planning management issue or if it's just a kind of technology and democratic support issue. It's kind of a bit, spans a few genres there, I think.
Yeah, I think because we've got just the 5 members on this one and we need 3 to be quoted, had we not have arranged those substitutes and just went ahead with, like Jane was a declaration of interest on one of the items, so we decided it might be best just to fill that spot completely, and if we hadn't have done, we wouldn't have been quoted at the start of the meeting today. So because it's only 5 members, now that we do have the 5 substitutes for LRB, which was agreed at full council, what we could do is we send the 5 substitutes a paper copy at the same time as we send the 5 who are nominated. And then if we do get a last minute call off, at least we know that the 5 substitutes have already got a hard copy of the papers.
Mm-hmm.
That's good thinking, Tracy.
I think it's only an extra sets of papers. It's not major. Thank you.
Yes.
And I suppose it could also even be optional for members to say, no, I'm fine with digital if they really want to.
Yeah,
stick to that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a good suggestion, Tracy. David is
with something.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I apologise for the lateness of this particular one. We'd gone through the normal process of informing members, and we had what we thought was a panel. I'm unaware why Councillor Fairbairn wasn't able to attend at the last minute, but Councillor Maitland was satisfied she had no interest to declare until she actually saw the papers, and realised that on that second item there was Kelwood Engineering, which she has a direct interest in, had been behind the lighting scheme. So it was on that basis that really at the 11th hour she realised that she had an interest. So it was very last minute. We apologise for that. It's unusual to be quite at last minute.
Just if members get the opportunity to notice quickly, it gives the substitutes time to organise themselves.
It's
quite happy to do it. I just thought 24 hours is a bit.
We did get there, and it stretched the brain a bit, but we did get.
No, but yeah, I think all we can do is provide the appropriate feedback, and I think, like you say, Ian, we did sort of get there, but we can always tweak it to improve it. So
absolutely, and Tracy's got the plan. That's great.
Yeah. No, thanks again. So I've got no further business, and thanks for your feedback and support today, as always.
Well done, Stephen. Well done, David. Well done, Tracy. You'll be chairman every time now, Stephen.
No. Well, thanks, Jim. Okay, cheers for now.